on Dr. Reckers, a witness in the, for the state, after the state of Arkansas had already had an experience with him that proved he was incompetent and against the advice of your own attorneys at DCF.
Well, sure, I'd be glad to talk about that case. This is a gay adoption case. We have a state law in Florida that prohibits gay adoptions of children. And I was asked, our office was asked by the Department of Children and Families to defend a challenge to that law and its constitutionality and carry that to the state Supreme Court because they wanted an answer. And the job that I do as Attorney General, take the political hat completely off. Personally, I will tell you, so you have full disclosure, I don't favor gay adoption, okay? But that's not my decision over here. I'm working with this hand over here, wearing this hat over here as Attorney General. And we made the decision, of course, to represent the state, as we always do, to defend our laws. And then we asked our attorneys for their opinions. And by the way, you get to see everything. We released all the public records on this. Normally, you wouldn't be doing that. You wouldn't get to see that, but we did. And you can see where there was a heated discussion. The trial attorney said, we don't really think we need all these witnesses. We just prove up this case because, by the way, Florida has upheld this law previously. But our Solicitor General, the one who carries the appeals for the state of Florida, the one who's my appellate lawyer, going to carry this to the Supreme Court, said, we need to get these records and the evidence. We need a witness. And Dr. Reekers, of course, I would never call him as a witness, knowing what I know now about him, it's not all over the press. But at the time, he was the only available witness that had the credentials, willing to testify, and willing to produce the evidence. What we needed to have done was to put the records of the evidence. He's not a scientist like somebody who does experiments or issues his own opinions. He's simply a scholar, and he was producing the written reports and the records and the studies that have been done and introducing them into evidence. And yes, he had a problem. The Arkansas court didn't like him, but he'd already been qualified in Florida previously. He testified in another case for Florida in the past. So that's why, and that's exactly why we did that. And I think we'll see how the Supreme Court does. This case is going on to the Supreme Court. DCF still wants us to do it, and we're where we are with it. And I think we've got a good chance that the law is sustained. Yes, ma'am.
Pat Gerard, could you explain why it's not okay for the federal government to tell the states what to do, when it is okay for the state to cap local property taxes, or to freeze local property taxes, which pay for public safety and infrastructure? Do you believe in the part of the Constitution that talks about home rule or not?
Well, I certainly believe in home rule. What I proposed, and your question I presume is triggered by what I mentioned a little earlier, that I believe that we are in such a critical moment in the state of Florida about growth, about getting jobs, getting the economy going again. You know, we have 1.1 million unemployed. We're a state of 18 million people. That's a lot of unemployed. We have the worst economy in Florida since the Great Depression. We may not be in a depression, but we're not getting anywhere fast with this. And because the federal government's not been willing to do what it should do, we're even worse off because they're not reducing the taxes they should be. They're increasing them instead. They've grown the size of the federal government in a way that's almost unimaginable. They've choked off a lot of businesses and loaning and the ability of banks and others to finance things. So we're pretty stagnant in Florida right now. What we need more than anything else at this time is to encourage our small businesses to grow and do well. The last thing we want to do is to see their taxes increase. This is the wrong time, even if you want to increase the tax locally or in the state. So I know that we're going to have a $6 to $8 billion hole in the state budget compared to $3 billion last year and about that the year before. That is a deficit that we will have to make up. We're a balanced budget state. We're not governor. And the way we're going to do it is not going to be increasing the taxes. It's going to be making really tough decisions. It's going to be consolidating programs in government. It's going to be ending some duplication of regulatory things that we've talked about. It's going to be maybe eliminating agencies. And the local governments need to do the same thing. And the state does have, the state creates municipalities. The state creates the county structure system. Now, you may have home rule, but the bottom line is that all I call for is a timeout for 2 years and say, let's not increase the actual taxes because property values may be going down. Let's require, and the legislature has to agree to this, that we're going to have the belt tightened at the local level just the same way as the state. So small businesses don't have that burden. We have more certainty to enable me to be able to draw businesses in the world of the state to do business. That's what that's all about. I think that's very important. Way back in the back. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Gene Webb. Can you, from your detailed plan, give me one example of one specific thing that you would do that would create a specific private sector job for a citizen of Florida?
Well, the answer is, can I name one specific thing that will create a job for a citizen of Florida? I'll tell you several things that would create jobs for the people of Florida. We have a venture capital fund proposal, the Genesis Fund, in here, and today it's about early stage venture capital. We have very little venture capital in our state. So I'm proposing that the legislature create this fund that will allow the state of Florida to directly invest in certain small businesses that will help us give them the resources they need to grow. And it may be, it's a match fund. It's designed to encourage private investment as well. We're not going to do this by ourselves. And it's different in part from the State Board Administration Pension Fund plan, Florida Growth Fund. And the reason why we need the Genesis Fund so much is because I talked to the Florida Growth Manager. We just started this fund, and my encouragement a couple of years ago, that it was one small portion of our pension monies, trying to bring back those monies that previously were going out of state and state. But the manager of that fund said, we can't do early stage venture capital because we don't have the partners here. There are not enough private small venture capital funds in the state of Florida. And it's an extremely important thing for us to do. And so that's one part of this plan. And there's also a council that I would suggest creating that will help coordinate with our universities and our local governments and our economic development commissions where they can find capital. Now, my opponent says I want to create a czar to oversee all of this. I don't at all. What I do suggest, in addition, though, that we streamline how we go about bringing businesses to the state, that we change the Office of Travel, Tourism, etc., to name it the Office of Economic Development of the Governor's Office, that we streamline Enterprise Florida, that we make these things work, that we have an ambassador, one person, not a czar, who travels the country looking for businesses that want to relocate and tries to sell them on Florida, and that we have somebody else in my office working for me, not some czar, who's going to go out and coordinate all of the local economic development groups about what you want and what we are doing here in Pinellas County or elsewhere. That's what we need to be doing, not the gimmicks that he's got in his plan. By the way, he copied a lot of my plan. I should say imitation is the most sincere form of flattery. But things he didn't copy are gimmicks. Yes, ma'am. Hi, Judy.
If your opponent wins in the primary, will you endorse him?
Well, let's look at the other way around. If I win the primary, will he endorse me? I've never met Rick Scott. He says he's shaking my hand. I told somebody that. It's a very strange campaign. I honestly don't know the man. I know his reputation. I've described it for you. The way he's run this campaign makes it very difficult for me to imagine him being governor. It's a quality of character that bothers me. And so I'm going to reserve judgment. And at the end of the day, I'm going to tell you what, this is a very questionable character flaw in his part. I see, for example, that he has a company. He invests in a lot of companies. He owns controlling interest in a company that actually benefited from the stimulus, Obama's stimulus plan, in a big-time way. At the very time he's saying, oh, I wouldn't have taken that money. I don't think that, not only should Governor Chris not have encouraged it, he shouldn't have taken road money or anything else in Florida. I opposed that stimulus bill. I wouldn't have voted for it if I'd been in Congress, and I wouldn't have gone up and given a big hug to President Obama, that's for sure. Well, Governor Chris did do that, obviously, we all know that. But on the other hand, I wouldn't be standing and saying I would never take a dollar from the federal government for our highways or for our transportation system, and I certainly wouldn't say that if I did feel it that way, and then turn around and take that money in my company to benefit me. There's something wrong with the character that I see being played out in an objective way. And I've not met him, so I'm not telling you what I'm going to do with regard to this, because A, I tend to win, and he's going to have to make that decision, and B, there are real issues about this man, real issues about his being our governor. Yes, sir, I've overstayed that side. I'll take one more back here.